Welcome to Tabletop Tutorials. I'm Simon, and today I'm going to show you how to draw a fantasy map. You'll need paper, pens, pencils, and some dice or tokens. Roll your dice out onto the paper, and draw a rough outline. Try and make it squiggly and organic looking if you can. The rougher the better. Here we have our continent. Take some more dice and set them up in a line. Draw a rough line along the dice, and this will form a mountain range. Do this several times until you're happy. And now we're going to start drawing in our mountains. For this map, I've chosen a very simple upside down V shape, but feel free to draw mountains how you like. Sometimes I space them further apart, and sometimes they're really close together. Okay, that's done. Let's draw some forests. You don't need dice for this, just pick some open spaces and draw some rough blobs. Perfect. Now we'll add some rivers. Rivers flow from mountains down to the ocean. Personally, I find rivers really difficult to draw and make them look good. Sometimes I just leave them out altogether. If you don't like an element on your maps, don't use it. Okay, rivers are done. Now, the fun part. We get to start inking in our map. So replace that pencil with a marker or pen and just start outlining your coast. And this can take a little while, so be patient. Take breaks if you need to. Going slowly will produce better results. Okay, coast is done. Now we're just inking in over the mountains. This part's pretty simple. You're just copying over what you've done already. Once we've got them all outlined, though, we get to add in some shading. Here I'm just adding some horizontal lines along the right side of each mountain. And some of them I give a little more and some a little less. This gives a sense of depth to the map. And it helps make it clear what we're looking at, because all of my mountains have the same shading technique, and it's a shading technique that I won't really use elsewhere in the map. There we go. Now you can do whatever you like, again, with mountains. Sometimes I like to use vertical lines, sometimes I use a series of dots to give it some shading and depth. Whatever works for you, but I think this method, just some horizontal lines along the right, is nice and simple. Okay, now it's time to ink in the rivers. And again, this can be a pretty slow process, so take your time, take breaks if you need to. Okay, now it's time to ink the forests. This is pretty simple. You're just going to take your pen and make some curving shapes around the edges of those blobs. Kind of think about drawing a cloud. How it's got those kind of bulbous shapes around the outside, these little circular shapes. Trees don't make smooth edges, so neither should your forests. That done, you're going to just draw a series of small vertical lines along the bottom of your forests. This gives a sense of depth as we can see the tree trunks. There we go. Now, to finish off the forests, just draw some round shapes on top, some M's, some N's. Give that sense of trees poking up out of the forest. Okay, next are settlements. What good is a map if you don't know where the people are? I'm starting by drawing some castles, 2 tall rectangles and a short one to represent the turrets. And then we're going to add in these single huts, which I'm using to represent small villages. Then a series of rectangles all thrown together represents a big city. And you'll notice that the shapes largely look the same when I'm using the symbols. Villages look the same, cities look the same, castles look the same. Okay, now it's time to name things. Just draw a name below the settlement you want to name, or in the middle of your bay, along a mountain range. Anything that you think would be interesting to have named, name it. You'll see that I included a name down there that's cut off the camera. Sorry about that. But we're almost done. Now it's just time to draw in the coastlines. So we're going to take some broadly spaced horizontal lines that we just kind of draw on the edge of each part of the coast. And where it kind of is a top or bottom part of the continent, we're going to add in a few extra lines above and below. And this gives us a pretty clear sense of where the land mass begins and ends. Ideally, you want to make these as regular as you can in terms of both spacing and length. I'm not always very good at that, but it's okay if they don't look exactly the same, because you get to draw a lot of them, and as long as you stay relatively consistent, your mind will fill in the blanks, and it'll look okay in the end. Map making is hard work, and you'll find that you make a lot of mistakes early on, and it's best just to accept that and roll with it, because ultimately, maps are a tool for you and your tabletop games, or your stories if you want to use a fantasy map for a book or story you're writing. The goal of a map is to convey information to the people viewing it, whether that's players in a game of Dungeons & Dragons or readers of a story. They don't need a beautiful work of art. They need something that helps them understand your world. And if you can make it beautiful, that's great. But making sure that it's clear and understandable and interesting is much more important than making sure that it's beautiful or perfect. Okay, here is our map. Now, I could keep adding details all day long if I wanted to. I could add more names to the mountains and the forests, but ultimately, I think this is pretty good. It didn't take too long either. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we see you at BCAF this weekend.